Hello and welcome back to Anywhere But Here, episode 323. My name is Tom, and I'm here alone this time round. Ant is on holiday. Well, I think he gets back later on this evening or possibly tomorrow morning. But I thought I'd give him this time off. He's just had a lovely, relaxing week or so away with his family. He doesn't want to come straight back and do one of these. And that's fine, because actually we've got an episode in the bank and the DVD/Blu-ray comes out very soon. It's already out on streaming. And I would imagine those of you who wanted to see it have probably seen it by now. So we decided that this was going to go out instead. Before I get there though, you can find us at abhpod.com, where if you scroll down a little way, there's an Amazon banner. If you click through that Amazon banner, do your shopping at amazon.co.uk as you usually would, we get 5% of your total basket spend at the end. It doesn't cost you any more, or it doesn't change your experience of the website at all. We get 5% of the money that would otherwise go to Amazon, which is a win-win, I think we can all agree. If you would like to support the podcast in a slightly less commercialistic way, you can become a Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/abhpod and sign up there for as little as £1 a month, or 1 unit of your local currency, whatever that may be. You can give more, that would be appreciated, but it doesn't necessarily have to happen that way. Times are tough at the moment, and we understand that, and we really appreciate all our patrons who are already signed up. But you can sign up for that, and you get for example, spoilercasts like the one you're about to hear on the day they come out, which is just after Ant and I have both seen them. Or you get extra after the podcasts, which are specifically for patrons. They don't go out on the main feed at all, ever. And you get videos of us playing computer games as and when we do that. We haven't done that in a while because it just doesn't work over Zoom, but perhaps that will happen again in the future, who knows. The best thing of all though is that you get these main episodes that go out on the main feed without this intro explaining all this stuff, so you don't have to skip through it or you don't have to listen through it. You just get straight into the episode. Which I think is the best thing about being a patron. Also, you get your own RSS feed, it updates on the regular, and you get a little gold thumb in the bottom right hand corner of the logo, which, marks you out as someone incredibly special. You can get in touch with us as well. You can talk to us on Patreon. There's a direct kind of commenty bit under there that we do try to keep up with when people post in there. But also for everyone else, there is the regular ways of getting in contact. You can get in touch with us on Twitter at ABHPod, facebook.com/ABHpod, or under the videos on youtube.com/ABHpodcast. You can also email us at abh@gmail.com. This episode, as I've alluded to, is a spoilercast. It's a spoilercast of The Batman, the latest DC movie that was in cinemas recently. Some of you will be surprised to know that I went to a DC movie, but this one piqued my interest, and it's Batman as well. I can't keep away from a Batman film, except Dawn of Justice, because fuck that. So this is the spoilercast of The Batman. If you've not seen The Batman yet and you want to see The Batman, then go and watch The Batman and come back and listen to this episode then. If you have seen The Batman, by all means dive on in and let us know what you thought of the film as well after you've finished listening to the episode. There are definitely a couple of things that we have missed out, I'm sure, because it's a 3-hour film, and the episode is only an hour long. So I'm sure there's some stuff that we missed out, or maybe some nuances perhaps that we didn't quite get round to discussing in full, and we love to have these conversations with people. So do get in touch after you've given the show a listen, and get involved. Let us know what you thought. But for now, there will be spoilers straight away. This is why you shouldn't listen to it if you want to see the film and haven't. There will be spoilers from the off about characters who are in it, plot lines, surprises, Easter eggs, all that kind of stuff. So you have been warned. It's about to start after this. Enjoy. It's a spoiler cast, so I don't know whether we do. I can't remember whether we do
a hello. We don't do a how are you, because obviously for patrons, they get this without an intro. But obviously,
it will go out
when it goes out on the main feed. It will have an intro that does the hello bit. But
we've probably done this so many times.
Either way, mate, we've recorded these so many times, so we should have a way of starting these now.
I know.
Obviously, if you are listening to this, you will have seen the title. It is a spoiler cast for The Batman, the Robert Pattinson Batman. If you haven't seen it and you actually care about it, don't listen to the spoiler cast. If you don't care about spoilers, feel free to keep listening, because we are going to spoil it.
We will go into depth about characters and plot and things that you might not have seen in the trailer, or whatever.
But straight off the bat, if you haven't seen it, do.
Yes. I mean, I don't know what else to say.
Go and see it.
This is. I went to the cinema to see a DC film.
Yeah,
that should be enough to tell you.
Yeah, you were doing it hoping that it would sort of redeem them in some way. And did you go and see the Joker in the cinema?
That's true. I did. Yeah,
the Joker, right. The Batman. I see where this is going. Although,
okay, right, okay. We won't get onto that just yet.
No,
but they just can't fucking help themselves, can they?
No, they can't.
And it really annoys me. Anyway, that's right at the end. So we're not going to go through it. We're not going to go through it frame by frame because it's a 3-hour long film.
But it really didn't feel like
3 hours,
it.
Did it?
Like you said to me, because you saw it just like before me, and you said it really doesn't feel as long as it is.
The pacing is incredible.
And again, it's not because it's not a particularly like action-packed film. No. So like it's not that one of those ones where it doesn't feel like 3 hours, because there's just so much all the time. Like there are parts where it's quite a slow film,
and kind of almost like not plodding, but it takes its time in, like, you know, that first murder scene, for example, when the Batman goes in and kind of like all the police are like, what the fuck is this freak doing here? Like, it does have that thing where normally, like in the Batman films, you see like he's helping the police and they're like letting him help out and stuff. Whereas this one, you've seriously got that they don't trust him, they don't like him, he's interfering. Yeah. And it's only, this is clearly a Batman who's in his like second or third year or something like that. It feels like he's,
because Gordon isn't a commissioner.
No, he's not.
So
he's just a captain, isn't he? Is he Captain
Gordon? It's not Constable Gordon, is he?
Lieutenant
Gordon. Yeah. So obviously, like you say, it's an early Batman because he's quite young. He doesn't quite know what he's doing. He's not Bruce Wayne, the philanthropist, sort of going out to all these events. Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. If anything, he still seems to be struggling with his role in the company Wayne, and also being the Batman as well. Like he seems to still be incredibly emotional about things, to the point of mopey and emo as fuck.
Which some people would be surprised you're saying emotional when we're talking about Robert Pattinson as an actor.
True, but I think in the last few years, since he wasn't in the two massive franchises, you know, Harry Potter and Twilight, he's gone on and done some really interesting roles.
Well, I mean, he was in Tenet, wasn't he?
Tenet, Cosmopolis, The Lighthouse.
Yeah, see, I've not seen any of these, so to me,
Cosmopolis was really interesting because it was basically he's some millionaire riding through New York City in a limousine in traffic, and then people just come in and out of this limousine, and it was kind of like, this guy is a Bruce Wayne type character, but like the Bruce Wayne type character rather than the Batman one.
I'm sorry, but it sounds like a premise of a podcast. You know, riding around in limo with random people going in. My internet connection's unstable all of a sudden. Fantastic.
Yeah. I noticed that as soon as you froze, I was like, right, I'm going to stop talking after this sentence and let it all catch up.
Yeah. I noticed you froze for me, so I stopped reacting.
Right. Yeah.
I can still hear you, so editing. It's recorded. I could still hear you, so it's recorded.
Cool. All right. So he's done some pretty interesting things where he's shown a bit more range and actually is a very good actor. And I think that this is an excellent role. And he plays it really well. He's a little bit of a bitch. Like the whole his relationship with Alfred, I just want to grab him by the throat and be like, stop being so mean to this old man. Like,
it's
even
also,
the bit where like
it's also because it's like Andy Serkis in a really like fatherly role, and you're just like, so nice. But who like anything that man does, I don't think that man can do anything wrong. And
he's massively underrated as an actor.
And he's the ex-military Alfred in this, isn't he? Because he alludes to his time in the forces or whatever.
Yeah, and he's also like, I could teach you to fight, but I couldn't teach you this, that, or the other.
Yeah. Like he is a fantastic Alfred. I know we said we're not going scene by scene, but that the first sort of like scene, the first part of the film where you've got the noir sort of narration over everything, and I was like, I really liked the tone of this film.
Yeah.
Like this
well,
is
it
fantastic.
Finally does, like, because none of the
it's Detective
films,
Batman. It's Detective Batman.
None of the films so far have done that kind of inner monologue thing that is so prevalent in the comics.
Yeah.
Because he's always talking to himself in the comics. And the way that this one opens was incredible. And like the whole point of like the light is a frightening thing for criminals, because they, as soon as the light is in the sky, they imagine that he's in any of the shadows anywhere.
So and then you've got like 3 or 4 crimes happening like simultaneously, and they all look at the light and they start to run off. It's so well done. Like,
and also the first fight as well. Like, he's not stealthy, quick on his toes Batman. He's a bruiser. And like that kind of where he comes out of that, where he comes out onto the train station, and you hear him before he comes, the thudding like military boots that he's got on, like basically like super Doc Martens.
Yeah, because to be fair, like Batman in the outfits he wears, like they are like you say, military boots and stuff like that. How can you be stealthy? That's not a stealthy outfit. You frozen? Are we back?
Oh, hi. I got to be fair, like.
Yeah, I was gonna. I was gonna say, like with that outfit that he wears, with like you say, with the military boots and all the rubber and stuff, it's like, by rights, Batman really shouldn't be stealthy.
No,
he shouldn't be a stealthy character.
No. There's been different iterations, isn't there? There's been, the kind of stealthy ones from like, I guess the Keaton, like they're quite light on their feet, aren't they? The Keaton and the Joel Schumacher ones, especially, where it's all kind of latex rather than armor. And then the Christian Bale version kind of brought it into more of a kind of combat suity type thing. But this version looks like the Batman from the games, the Arkham games. Yeah, actually, that's true. Yeah, he's definitely an Arkham Batman, isn't he? Yeah, and there's quite a lot of Arkham in this film as well. They talk about it a lot, which is really cool. Because it turns out that his mum was an Arkham. Yeah, which I wasn't sure whether was part of her backstory, whether she actually was like in the comics, or whether this is something they've kind of come up with for this iteration. Yeah, I quite like it. And that she was unstable in some way, wasn't she? That was what they were trying to say. Which is interesting, because in the Joaquin Phoenix Joker film,
It wasn't the Joker, was it? It was just Joker.
Just Joker, yeah.
Yeah. His mum was in Arkham. Was
That's
it?
true.
Well,
yeah.
Did they call it Arkham, or was she just in an asylum?
That's a good
I
point.
can't remember.
I don't know whether they specifically used the name, but she was in a psychiatric hospital.
Yeah, it's really interesting that they went that way as well. But
yeah, and wasn't it after he took her medical records out of the hospital, he found out that there was a link to the Waynes?
yes,
Because she worked for the Waynes, didn't she?
yeah. So she believed that. We're talking about Joker now. She believed.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
She believed that Thomas Wayne. Well, yeah, she believed Thomas Wayne was his dad. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
So he was Bruce's stepbrother, which I really like that twist.
It was a cool twist. Yeah, I like that.
But it may not be real because she was in an asylum, so she was
exactly.
But then did Wayne pay to have her put in the asylum? It's that's the whole point of that film, isn't it? Like
yeah.
So Joker, who's already having an identity crisis, just still doesn't know who he is.
Yeah.
Either way, anyway, but yeah, they sort of do that in this with Martha Wayne, don't they? Where she was in an asylum. Why was she? She just had issues. There was no, yeah. But it was sort of covered up. But that was it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But he paid to have that covered up, that she was in an asylum.
And I mean, even having a look at the early kind of the early scene of like the Riddler's first murder, it was so tense. Like the bit where was it the mayor?
Yeah. When Riddler's watching him from across the way, and then he ends up on the skylight, doesn't he?
Skylight, and then he's in the room, and the guy's walking around the room on the phone, talking about exit polls or whatever it is for the election. And he's in the background of the room, and you're like, oh fucking hell.
Yeah, it is.
And the
really
mask
well done.
looks really creepy with the kind of round.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I liked it, but it's sort of Court of Owls-esque disguise, isn't it? With the like, it's not as sort of ninja style Court of Owls. It's like bulky.
Yeah.
But it's the goggles and stuff, sort of.
And almost like a gas mask type look to it, wasn't it?
Was it Court of Owls that had those masks?
Yeah,
I know they had the white masks when they were doing their ceremonies, didn't they? But then
but
when
outside of that, they had like a brown kind of thing, which looked like it had owl ears on it.
And the goggles were the big owl eyes, yeah. But yeah, it sort of evoked that feeling.
And I just thought that his portrayal was really kind of creepy. And Paul Dano, that is.
He was so good.
Yeah.
He was so good.
The way that they brought it all together, it was all about orphans.
Yeah.
It was the whole thing of like the Waynes let the orphanage go to rot, essentially.
But Bruce, who was an orphan, had all this money.
Yeah.
There
were a couple of bits with the riddles where like they were trying really hard to work it out, and I was like, but I understand that riddle. How don't you understand that riddle?
Yeah. But it's, it's I like that it's sort of set in a more in a modern world where they've got the technology where he's got contact lenses with the cameras in, and they got mobile phones, and they can put stuff in a computer and have it decrypt stuff. And I like that. I like that they brought in the technology as well. It was really good.
Thumb drive.
That was really cool. The thumb drive, literally a thumb to unlock the drive.
But it was very much like a kind of Seven style. People were saying, oh, it's kind of like the Seven version of Batman, and it really was. Like, it's almost like Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman going around trying to catch.
But some of the contraptions, like with the rat contraptions, sort of reminded me of like Saw traps, but there was no way that guy was getting out of that trap, so it wasn't quite Saw.
Yeah, there were no way out of these particular torture devices.
Yeah, you can't get out via self-mutilation. Like, that's not going to happen.
That was also, that particular bit was very, very much like The Dark Knight as well. Like, you know, where the Joker has got the newscaster hung upside down and he's taunting him, and he's making that video that goes out on the news. Oh, if you don't get to this guy by if you don't bring me Batman by X amount of time, I'm going to start killing people.
Yeah,
it was very much like that, I thought, with the guy with the rat cage attached to him.
And I think with like the Riddler as well, because I was going to say I wasn't sold on him, like the Riddler looking like that when I was watching the trailers and stuff, but you saying that the Batsuit is very Arkham games, the Arkham trilogy of games, or quadrilogy now, isn't it? But the Arkham games, yeah, that sort of Riddler in this film feels like he could come straight out of those games as well, because they were more.
They were really kind of dark, weren't they? Like probably much more dark than you could get away with, because I mean the Penguin in those games had, like, instead of a monocle, it was like the bottom of a beer bottle or something embedded in his eye, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And actually the Penguin in this, Colin Farrell, was completely unrecognizable and clearly having like the time of his life.
Oh, incredible. Liz had no idea.
No, I know.
And I think it was did I tell you at the end of the film that it was Colin Farrell? After we'd watched the whole thing. Yeah. It still doesn't register. Even his co-stars, there's an interview with him, even his co-stars didn't recognize him when he walked past.
It's like mad, isn't it?
He knew them personally and he walked past them and they didn't really know until he started talking to them like in his own voice.
But clearly channeling like De Niro.
Yeah. The makeup and like his performance as the Penguin was just
he was my favorite character in it, I think, because Liz, like he was also like, yeah. Sorry,
Liz pointed something out, or Liz spotted it before I did. You know when they take him under the bridge and they chain him up? Was it that part? Where they chain his legs together and he's trying to walk away and he's doing the penguin waddle. I didn't even realise. I didn't even pick up on that. Yeah.
So good. I laughed out loud when it happened.
Yeah.
Because it was just like, it's a great little callback to like to the character and you know, all the portrayals in the past. But what I enjoyed
without
was
making him cartoony, without the whack 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 laughing and stuff like.
Yeah, and in fact, he hated the nickname Penguin. Like his character doesn't want to be called that.
No,
but like people call him it because he looks a bit like one.
Exactly.
But no, he was incredible, and the car chase I thought was great. Like I couldn't really understand exactly what was going on all the time, but I think that's the way that this film was shot. It was very much like you were kind of always looking through a window with rain coming down over it. Like this Gotham is very rainy. But yeah, that car chase is great. And then right at the end where like he's upside down, having just like caused that massive pile up. And Batman gets out of the car and is just walking slowly towards him. And then you just see that bit of him like, kind of looking down underneath, upside down. I don't know. There was something about that shot that I quite liked.
Yeah, no, it's that's really well shot, that whole scene. And
just that quite like, I got you. I got you. And then the Batmobile just jumps through the flames. And the Batmobile was amazing.
It doesn't look like any Batmobile. It doesn't look like a Batmobile like we would expect, but I really want that car. But I like this Penguin as well, and I like when they do this with a Penguin that he's just a mobster. Like that's all he is. And in this, he's like an underling as well. He's not even the main guy.
Yeah, he's like one of Falcone's henchmen, basically, isn't he? He just runs the club that Falcone uses as a base.
Yeah.
But then by the end of it, he's got designs on taking over. Basically, he's stepped up where Falcone has died to fill that power vacuum. Yeah, John Turturro again, isn't it?
Yeah, like, it's everyone in this film is just So
there's
good.
not a weak link in it. Like
No.
everyone is bringing their A game.
Zoe Kravitz, Catwoman, just
great.
Yeah.
I didn't really get the relationship thing. I didn't feel like there was much in the way of real kind of
between her and
between her and Batman. Like that seemed a little bit like, oh.
So that when they go their separate ways and there's that sort of weird I think it's just the kindred spirits thing, isn't it? It's that both of them haven't really got anyone. She had someone that she lost. She had a friend, and then they were kind of fighting for the same thing. And I think it was more that infatuation rather than relationship. I think it was just that they found someone that kind of got them in like that city where they're sort of on their own. I think it was more to do with that. She wanted him to sort of go with her to sort of help other people and whatnot, but he needed to look after his city but that last shot with them going off on the motorbikes as well, was the motorbike chase as well, like where he's following her, is just everything about this film, to be fair.
So good. I like the bit where they're working together, where she has to go in undercover with the camera contact lenses, and like they're working
He's telling
together
them what to say and who to go and talk to.
Yeah. That was cool. And just like you knew something was going to happen. I imagined she was going to get found out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just fucking brilliant. Another great scene was the bit for the funeral of the mayor, where Bruce Wayne is there as Bruce Wayne for the first time. Really, it's the only time that he's really properly out in public as Bruce Wayne in the whole film. Yes,
he's not. By the sounds of it, like you say, from like what you were saying at the beginning, it's like he's not. Well, and I said he's not that Bruce Wayne yet. He's not going out to public events, and obviously Alfred's sort of trying to encourage him. Like, you need to be seen and stuff like that. So he goes to this. Whose funeral was it? It was the mayor, wasn't it? It was the mayor's funeral, yeah. And the fact that he's walking in and he's looking at people trying to see who it might be, and there's loads of people that it could be. That you find out at the end that yes, it was all of them. Essentially, like they're all involved in some way, or they would be. Eventually, they're the sort of disgruntled people of the city that the Riddler's wound up.
It was very incel-y, wasn't it, towards the end, when Riddler is finally unmasked as like this weird little nerd.
Yeah.
And then you find out that he's got a YouTube channel with 50 subscribers or something like that. Or was it 500? Whatever it was.
It was not many.
It was not many. But you're like, but all he needs is 50 or whatever it is, people to kind of carry out what he's actually got planned, which was weird because there was no mention of this Gotham being surrounded by water, and that there's like there's a wall keeping
it's lower than
than the river around it or whatever. But that kind of comes into it right at the end, and it turns out that
it was really cool though.
Don't get me wrong. So after a few more people die, including the guy at the cathedral where
that scene was quite tense though, wasn't it? So it was that. It was very much like that crime. I can't remember the name of it. There's a documentary on Netflix about it, isn't it? Where the guy has the bomb strapped around his neck. It was that. No, this guy's. This was one of the ones that Selena Kyle was talking to in the club, wasn't it? And he gets into his car.
That's right.
And Riddler's there, and then during the funeral, you hear like loads of people start screaming and stuff, and this car comes crashing into the funeral, and then that guy gets out. He's one of the officers, isn't he? One of the police officers, I think. Or he's the DA.
He's one of the corrupt DA or something. Yeah,
and he gets out and he's got like a bomb. I don't know. Was it strapped around his neck? It was, wasn't it?
Yeah,
and with the mobile phone
kind of and a combination lock and stuff like that.
Yeah, so he's talking to the Batman, isn't it? Because obviously Bruce Wayne goes off, comes back as Batman later that night. and he's talking to the Riddler on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's quite a... Yeah, and like he doesn't quite get away from the blast, does he? He's sort of like blown over. Yeah.
And that's the bit, where like the police and the paramedics kind of take him away to like some room somewhere. And in all that time, they're like, oh, let's not take the mask off. But just as he's coming round, they're like, oh, let's have a go and see who's under the mask.
He starts beating him up.
However long that would have been.
Yeah.
And then, like his whole thing is he beats all the policemen up, but then
Gordon
talks him down. But Gordon, to let him go, Gordon's got to get lamped in the face.
Yeah. Takes
to make it look. And then there's that thing where, again, it shows his lack of experience in this department, because he kind of goes right up to the top of the police station or wherever it was that he was being held. Was he still in the cathedral? I wasn't quite sure. I think it was the police station, because he was on an interview room on a table, wasn't he? Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And Gordon gives him the keys.
He gets up to the top and he's going to jump off, but he's kind of scared by the height of the building.
Yeah.
And then as he does jump off and opens up the kind of flying squirrel suit, because he doesn't have a cape yet.
I get that, but it's not Batman. Batman's gliding.
This is what I mean about
cape.
He's still early on in his.
I think the choice there wasn't so much that because he didn't have a cape. I think it's more to ground it a bit more, to make it more realistic. Because like this cape that's was it Christian Bale's one or was it Michael Keaton's one or one of the early ones, where the cape's all flowy and then all of a sudden it's just full of steel rods as he holds it out to like what. Where did they come from?
The Christian Bale one was it was electrically charged, where he'd send a pulse through it and it would rigid. It would become rigid like a glider,
which kind of makes sense. I think it's the Keaton one I'm thinking of, where he kind of like just raises his arms and it's just
But he doesn't stick the landing either. Like he crashes into a bridge in a bus. I couldn't work out what he had on his where the gauntlets usually are. They were like big square pads on the outside of the forearms, and I couldn't quite work out what they were supposed to be. But they weren't the ninja gauntlets. No,
but do you remember when the suit was first revealed, or when you saw like the really dark image and people were like, that logo, the bat symbol on his chest looks like it's going to be a batarang, and like the whole way through the film, nothing. I'm like, are they going to? And then at the end, near the end, he does it, and we're like, oh, yeah, everyone was right. Oh no, you don't even see him take it out, do you? You see him sort of catch it and then put it back, pick it up and then put it back in. I don't think you see him take it out and throw it.
Maybe not. But he used it to cut that wire that he was dangling from, didn't he?
Yeah.
So like a few more people die. Everyone's getting really pissed off that no one's coming for them. Then he works out that the next target is probably going to be Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
And that's when Alfred gets blown up, but doesn't die.
No.
And then that was the other bit where I was like,
because he realized, didn't he?
Yeah.
As he was opening it, he realized.
And there was a letter addressed to the Batman, which obviously Alfred opens because Alfred knows everything.
Yeah.
And gets a face full of explosive. And then like the next thing for that character, he wakes up in the hospital and Bruce Wayne is there being a sulky little bastard again, and just is like, "You're not my father. Why did you lie to me?"
Yeah.
It's like, at least just say, "Oh my God, I'm so glad that you're alive."
Yeah, no, he's a real whiny bitch, about it. Oh yeah, I'm looking at a picture now. The Batman. I'm just looking at the gauntlets. Yeah, they're weird. They look like they've got darts on it.
Oh really? Okay.
This is a statue, to be fair, but yeah, it looks like it. It looks like on the one side it's got. Yeah, they look like there's darts and things on the gauntlet, and it does have the spiky bits as well. Yeah, interesting.
Right. Okay, I never got a full kind of proper look at them. I was intrigued by them because I was like, "Oh, what's that?
How's that tech work?" He's being a sulky bastard, and then And then Alfred does a really nice speechy bit, doesn't he, to him? And
and then they kind of reconcile without saying, and then eventually works out where the Riddler is, figures out his thing, and that's where it becomes more like Seven again. Is that you're looking around the Riddler's apartment after he's been caught, and there's so much stuff. It's like the John Doe room in Seven, where there are just diaries and scribblings and all sorts of stuff, and it would take you years to go through all of it. And they start to kind of decipher a few things, and then Batman's really worried that the whole Batman Bruce Wayne thing has been worked out, and that there's loads of policemen in this room, and that he's going to get found, basically. And they never do. They never pick up on it.
No.
And then even when he goes to talk to the Riddler in Arkham, he's convinced that he knows that he's Bruce
he starts
Wayne.
Talking to him like he knows. It makes you think that he's figured this shit out.
Yeah.
But no.
And he has no idea. And it's quite a clever thing, because so often these supervillains work out the secret identity, and they hang it over Batman's head or whoever it is. But this time, he starts being like, Bruce, and you see his face go, shit. He's worked it out. He's sussed me. And then he's like, Bruce Wayne is the problem, and you and me, we're so alike. We just want to bring down people like him. And he's like, no, we don't. It's so weird, isn't it? Because he's trying to work with the Batman, and he thinks the Batman's been working with him this whole time. And then he's figured everything out, and Batman's like, no, I don't know what you're talking about, mate. What are you on about? We're not partners. And that's when he's like, oh, you haven't figured out the master plan. And then all of it takes is for him to go back to his apartment that night, and there's a cop there who's like, what are you doing here? You shouldn't be in here. And then they're looking at the murder weapon from the mayor. And the cop's like, oh yeah, that's a Tucker. My brother-in-law is a carpet fitter, and that's the kind of thing he uses. And then he's like, carpet fit, there's a carpet on the floor. Let's take the carpet up. It's such a weird logic jump. Like, this thing he killed a person with, maybe he used it in his house to lay his carpet.
There are some stretches.
I just think it's interesting that some of those early riddles, and they're like, pondering the riddle, and it's like, well, it's obvious. I can't remember what the first riddle was, but I was like, I almost said it out loud. I was like, I know what it is. Why are you taking so long to get it? But then and then there's that logic jump of like, oh, he used a carpet Tucker to kill this person. He has a carpet in his apartment. I'm going to take the carpet.
Maybe he laid his own carpet before he put all this furniture in there.
And there it is. There's a big map with LED bulbs to show the positions of all the bombs.
That's very,
because as much as the film is quite dark and gritty, it's got real comic book elements in it.
Because I was going to say that LED maps and stuff like that is very evocative of the old TV series Batman. Where the plans are laid out with LEDs and shit. The TV series, the 60s Batman.
I know.
But it's very quite cartoony, quite comic book, like you say. But now that's ruined me now, because it's like he laid that carpet before he laid all the furniture down, but then he's got his grand plan under the carpet. So how the hell is he, every time he's going to that map to do stuff, is he taking the furniture out, pulling the carpet up, relaying it, putting the furniture back? How does it work? I don't understand.
It doesn't make any sense at all.
Because it was a carpet, it wasn't a rug. It was a full carpet. Although, but then again, Batman could pull it up to see underneath, so maybe it's all on one side and he half falls. It's fine. It works. Anyway,
there's some way you can cram.
There's logic. There's logic in this Batman film. But so
basically
it's loads of
what it is he's put loads of bombs around the perimeter of the city, much
the
like
seawall.
Bane in
Much like Bane,
Rises.
Mm-hmm.
who planted bombs all around the city to kind of destroy it and raise
Collapse
it to the ground. Yeah. And the plan is to flood the city so that everyone in the city gets evacuated into what is essentially Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
Where the new mayor is being inaugurated.
Yes,
female mayor. Who he
female mayor
like
of color.
And
progressive Gotham.
And all his 50 followers are going to be dressed up like him, and they're going to start assassinating.
Yeah, so you see when he finds the YouTube channel, when Batman finds the YouTube channel, there's loads of comments where people commenting where to buy the outfit, like from an Army Surplus store. It's a gas mask from here, blah blah blah. Yeah. So they're all outfitted as the Riddler. They infiltrate. So we're going to kill the mayor?
Yeah, they were going to kill the new mayor.
Yeah.
I don't really know why, other than like anarchy.
Well, because I think to bring about, because they're always talking about bringing about change, and which never happens and stuff. So they're going to rebel against it, and one of, well, you don't see it right away, do you? Till closer to the end of that fight. But one of the people in that mask was the guy that Bruce saw at the funeral and thought it might have been him. And
yeah. And also, this is where, like, for the whole film, Batman has been like, whenever anyone asks who he is or what he's doing, he's like, I'm vengeance. And it's at this point where he uncovers one of the assassin Riddler wannabes, and he's like, and the guy repeats to him, he's like, oh, I'm vengeance. And you're like, oh, yeah. And Batman suddenly gets it. He's like, oh shit, maybe I shouldn't be doing things like I am doing it.
Yeah.
I thought one of the best shots of the whole thing was in that arena bit after all the Riddler people had been taken out, and he's leading.
Like I know what you're going to say. Where he's lifting the flare.
Flare and leading them all out. I thought that looked amazing.
I think that was in one of the trailers, but obviously with no context, it doesn't make sense. But yeah, it's when he goes with the flare and he's letting all the kids, like he's lifting the iron up to let everyone out. And yeah, I think it's at that point, like you say, it's when that Riddler wannabe says, I'm vengeance, that change happens and he turns into the vigilante, like...
But the savior vigilante.
Yeah, instead of just taking everyone down, like trying to take all the criminals down, he's going to help. Like it's that switch, and that's where you get that bit where he's helping people and getting them on choppers to get them out of Gotham.
He's there in the daytime, which you rarely see Batman in the daytime, and he's with all the police now, and he's clearly helping, and so they're clearly...
He's staying behind to help the people that were affected by it, rather than just beating people up and then fucking off.
Yeah. I thought that was pretty cool. So yeah, it's interesting to have seen the transformation, I guess, from angry Batman to kind of more compassionate, doing the right thing Batman.
Yeah.
And then and that's kind of where the film ends. Except it.
Here we go.
And then you get is it during the credit scene, or is it the last shot of the film? I can't remember.
No, I think it's the last shot of the film. The post credit scene, I believe. Well, no, because there was there two. Because I think this might have been one of them, and then the other one is just like a code where you go to a website.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. And it kind of introduces that the next character might be Hush, the next villain, which obviously is the guy who tries to steal Bruce Wayne's identity through plastic surgery and stuff.
That's a real famous story, isn't it, Hush?
Yeah, I've never read it, and I need to, I think. But he was also part of one of the Arkham games as well.
So either it's the last scene, or I think it might be like the last scene where you first hear him, And then the post-credit scene is more of the conversation with them, I think. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but...
So basically, like, the Riddler's looking out of his window and he's seeing his plan come to fruition, and then he also sees it be foiled by Batman, and he's really upset and howling. And then you hear a character from an adjacent cell being like, oh, it's okay. Don't be upset. What you've done is sow the seed or something like that. And you're like, oh, look, it's Heath Ledger. They've kind of woken him up from the dead and reinstated him as the Joker again.
But then, so it sounds like Heath Ledger there, but then when he does the laugh, it sounds like Jared Leto. And we were like, what? Like, we don't know who it is.
Yeah, except you damn well, you don't know who the actor is. You know exactly who the character is, because they cannot help introducing the Joker in any Batman film. And it boils my piss because there are so many other characters, villains that you could have in there before you get to the Joker. But clearly this is a universe in which the Joker has already existed and
he's in Arkham,
and has been foiled. So we haven't seen the origin of the Joker in this universe, but there has been that, and thankfully they didn't show us that. But yeah, I just was like, oh, couldn't it have been anyone else? Couldn't it have been Mad Hatter or like
Onomatopoeia?
Yeah.
But it's the thing is, it's like, it's another Joker, but then they've always done a Joker. They've always done the Penguin at some point. They've always done the Riddler at some point. Two-Face is another. Like, I mean, you look at the 60s Batman, and you've got like Catwoman, Joker, Riddler, Penguin.
Yeah.
Like, you look at the Schumacher ones, you've got Catwoman, you've got
Poison Ivy, Bane, Mr. Freeze.
There wasn't Riddler, Two-Face.
Riddler, Two-Face, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, there's always that roster of they are Batman's biggest villains, most well-known villains.
It
would be nice not to do, but hopefully, like, Joker will be there, but there will not be a Joker-centric film. However, the deleted scene makes you want that Joker because
like
he's
about a week later after obviously seeing the film and having the chat with you, I don't think we talked about it actually, but I messaged you or you messaged me about it, and I watched it and I was like, oh, like, it's a whole 5-minute deleted scene basically, isn't it, where Batman has also gone to see the Joker to try and get some information on how the Riddler might think, because clearly the Joker is an informant in the way that Hannibal Lecter was an informant to Clarice Starling. Like, it's that kind of relationship that they've got, which I think is quite interesting. And for a long time, you don't see Barry Keoghan's Joker.
He's just out of focus constantly, isn't he?
And I'm like, oh, come on, because it just looks like Heath Ledger's Joker at this point as well, except for the hands that are all kind of blistered and cracked and all that. Then you see a bit of behind his head, and he's got really patchy hair, and clearly acid burns, which is,
incredible,
the proper,
such a great, and like you do see. They do like a close up of his mouth, and you see like his lip is like blistered, like it's really fat section of his lip and stuff, and his skin's, and it almost looks like the Joker, the Death in the Family Joker, where he's like cut his face off almost, like, and it's just pinned his face on, like stapled his face on, like he looked gruesome. Which is fantastic. It's not the white face paint clown makeup, is it? It's not the clown prince. He's
and there was a lot more kind of characterization that they gave him that made him different and his own thing, which I think would have made that last scene more palatable for me personally. Because that last scene, I was like, oh, you're shoehorning him in. What the fuck is this about?
Or just have that scene where Batman's talking to the Joker in the middle of the film and don't have him teased at the end. Don't have him at the end at all. Like he's a character that exists in that universe. He's not being teased as in we might do a film about him in the future. He's just there in Arkham.
Yeah, and
he's just a prisoner in Arkham. Because now it's
some sort of tool.
yeah. Because now it seems like, because they didn't have that scene in the film and they had this teaser at the end of the film, it seems like they're teasing him for a future film. Like they're teasing him, they're going to bring him into it later on at some point. Like, just have that scene and have him. He's just a plot point. Like that's it.
Yeah. Which is much more interesting because it implies that there was a big rivalry and fight, and that Batman got him into Arkham, but needs him as a way to understand criminally insane people. But apart from that, which was okay by the time I saw that scene, I really, really enjoyed the film, and I loved the fact that they showed him putting on the makeup underneath the mask to black out his eyes, and the fact that when he took the mask off, the makeup was still there.
It didn't just magically disappear.
Like they do in every other iteration on film. I thought that was cool. Like the Batmobile was awesome because it looked real world. It looked like someone had jacked up an old Challenger or something like that.
His motorbike was just a motorbike.
Yeah. All this stuff looked kind of convincingly combat wear style.
The Batcave wasn't
really a cave, was it?
Cave.
Like it was just a basement. It was a garage. And the characterizations of all the characters were great, and it really did, like, as much as it was dark and gritty, it had a real comic book sense of style about it, with the voiceover where he's reading his journals. But there's also the silly stuff, like the fact that Riddler has his grand plan laid out on a map underneath the carpet
with LEDs.
With LEDs. Why does that need to happen? But it's
like a nod, isn't it? It's like an homage. It's like a nod to the older stuff. The attention to detail in it was great. It was just so different from any other Batman film we've seen. It's just so different. It was just a great film. Just really, really, really good. And just whoever made this, get them to make more.
Yeah, Matt Reeves is the director, isn't he? Like, and I think, a good choice. Someone who clearly knows what they're doing, seemingly,
Yeah. And isn't just like, I was going to say, isn't swayed by all like just having like these spectacular giant set pieces, but then they did flood Gotham. So
it was quite like there were a lot of elements of the Nolan films in there. So it was almost like it was paying homage to that, as well as the sillier side of things. Like it really was a kind of, it was a real kind of, it was a nice amalgamation of all the different strands of Batman lore and versions of Batman that have come before on film. And I will go and see more of this R-Bats Batman.
R-Bats. I didn't realize he had a name.
Yep.
Batfleck, R-Bats.
Yeah, exactly.
I liked Batfleck as well, by the way.
Exactly. Yeah. Look, I did as well.
Yeah.
Ben Affleck's Batman was the best bit of those silly films.
Yeah.
And it was a shame that he never got his chance at having his own standalone film, because I think that would have been great.
It was a shame that someone had to write the line, "How do you know that name?"
Yeah.
Anyway.
But it looks like DC are back on track, just making more kind of standalone-y type films, I think the ones that aren't in the Snyderverse.
Yeah.
As much as people enjoy the Snyderverse, it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
And I like this aesthetic. I like this take of the character.
Yeah.
And I like the villains. The villains all felt really fleshed out and real.
There was, but it wasn't just like, hey, there's this one villain. Like you had the one villain.
There was a network. It was a crime network.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, you had the one villain. You had like the Riddler. He's the big villain, and the Joker was in Arkham apparently, so he was obviously a big villain. But then you also had like the mobster side of it, where you had the Joker, but he was reporting to somebody who was reporting to someone. You had the corrupt police. Like there was this underbelly. So you had the one villain, but you also had this underbelly that is also fighting that might have information. Like they had the information that like Riddler knew this stuff was going on, and he used them to his advantage to sort of get Batman's attention. Like it was, like you say, fleshed out and just like there was.
The other thing that I was like, how are they not seeing this? Was the bit where Batman turns up to the Iceberg Lounge. And there's those two twins on the door, and he's like, "Can I come in?" And they're like, "No." And he's like, and he punches one of the guys in the face, and then like literally the next day turns up as Bruce Wayne and delivers the same line in the same voice, to the guy you just punched the night before. And they're like, "Oh, it's Bruce Wayne," and he sounds exactly like Batman, and he says the exact same words as Batman.
When I saw the sign for the Iceberg Lounge, I was like, "Oh fuck, are they bringing in Mr. Freeze as well?" Like,
but
maybe eventually.
This is it, isn't it? I'd like to see more in this world.
Yeah, I don't want Fishbowl Mr. Freeze. Also, don't want Arnie Mr. Freeze. To be fair,
no, something in between, something slightly more gruesome.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah. Because that's what I liked about this. Like it was a bit gruesome, a bit grimy.
It wasn't polished gothic Gotham. It was dirty, grimy underbelly, and that's it. You didn't see like the business district with like Wayne Tower, Wayne Enterprises, and stuff like that. It was literally just where the mobsters are and stuff.
I think what I would like going forward is another film where you've got Hush and maybe one or two other minor. Obviously the Penguin's going to be there in the background because he's taken over the mob from Falcone. Maybe someone else, maybe a Mr. Freeze, maybe something like that, or even like some of the weirder like Calendar Man, or just some random thing, because in the Arkham games, these characters were like incidental side mission characters. And Calendar Man's thing has always been like he would attack on various national holidays, and they were always themed to the holiday or something like that. And in the Arkham games, one of the Arkham games, he was held prisoner underneath a church, and you could go and see him. And on various days, like on Easter, he would say something, or on Christmas, he would say something.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
You could change the date on your system, on your PlayStation or whatever, and he would have something different to say about various days of the year.
I didn't know that. That's cool. Yeah, I've got all of the games on my laptop. I think I finished them all actually. Well, strangely, they're games I did finish just because their button mashes are great.
They're brilliant games. I love them. But,
even Arkham Knight, where you drive. Sorry,
but I think like what I'd then like to see after maybe the second or even maybe the third film, once he's put loads of these people away, is then do the Arkham Asylum storyline, where something's gone wrong in Arkham and Batman has to go in there and sort them all out himself. And it's like, I don't know whether you've ever read the comic, but it's this weird
it's like psychological trip, isn't it?
It's really impressionistic art and like really trippy, and like nothing's ever, you can't tell perspective very well, and all the characters seem to change in weird ways, and like it's like this weird impressionistic nightmare scenario. And I think that in that setting, that Batman and those villains running amok inside Arkham, I think that would be a brilliant film.
What could be interesting is if, and it's a shame because, well, not a shame, but like if, like with the Joker being in Arkham and he doesn't play like a massive role, but like like Harleen Quinzel does work there, and you see the transformation. That would be really interesting, because I'd like to see how they would do Harley in that, because she's, you know, in the comic books and the cartoon, she's like the jester sort of person, and then obviously in the Snyderverse, she's this colourful. To be fair, really, really like that version of her as well. But I'd like to see how they would do it. Yeah, I don't know. Have you watched the Suicide Squad films?
No, I need to get round to it, because I think they're
good fun. They're really good fun. Yeah. They're not serious. They're not to be taken seriously. They're really, really good fun.
Yeah, but I think like this Joker, as much as he's helping Batman, there's going to be, it will be like, it will, I get the impression if they're going along kind of the Seven line with this, the relationship between Joker and Batman is like that of Clarice and Hannibal in the Hannibal Lecter films.
It's like a codependency.
And eventually he breaks out. Or he'll, like, with the number of villains being sent to Arkham, he will in some way come up with some sort of plan.
He'll incite some sort of escape or riot type thing.
Yeah. And I think that would be a great way to go, I think.
But this is the thing where they've done it really. This film's been done that well that you can have those ideas about how this could move forward. And
I'm excited about it. The fact that I'm even thinking about it is so much better than like the previous DC films where
you just wanted to forget about.
I want less of these. In fact, I would like negative numbers of these films.
Yeah, can you please remove the memory of these from my brain? Yeah.
So I'm glad that DC's doing well again.
I think you're right with if they try not to focus on the cinematic universe style of it and just have these standalone films. But they might pop in and stuff, but it's not.
Well, this is it. Once you've earned it, Marvel had to earn it to get to the Avengers. They had to do 5 films before they got to the Avengers, and DC tried to do it after 2.
And Marvel have one guy, Kevin Feige, overseeing the whole thing and keeping everything in place and connected, whereas I don't think DC had that.
No.
Because like the Suicide Squad films are sort of in the same universe, but then they're not really the same tone and don't really fit in. And like Wonder Woman films are great standalone films as well. Like they're really good because, yes, she was in those films, but they're sort of separate. And she does still have bits in, like there are still bits in there, but they're great. I mean, did you see Wonder Woman 84?
Not yet, but I will. Because I like the first one.
So good, yeah. And that one's more lighthearted and good fun as well. Like it's really good.
But what they've done with that is they've set it in time periods that are nowhere near the Justice League film.
Yeah.
Like they were First World War and then 1984.
Yeah.
You know, whereas Justice League was taking place, I guess, in 2016 or whenever it was filmed.
Yeah.
You know, contemporary times. So they, you know, that's been a good way for them to separate Wonder Woman out and give her standalone films.
To be fair,
yeah. More of that.
Yeah.
And more of this Batman.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It was great. Just watch it. Just watch it.
Yeah. And if you have watched it, let us know what you thought of it. Sound off in the comments on Patreon.
Yeah, please do.
Or when this comes out on the main feed, when the DVD's out, let us know what you thought. Always love talking Batman.
Yeah. He's your favorite,
first time
isn't
I've
he?
been able to talk. Yeah. He's the only DC character that I really care that much about. I want to care about the others, but nothing that I've seen has made me care about any of the others yet.
No, especially not as much as this one. That's the thing. Is again, like the Nolan ones were great, but you didn't really have that same feeling as you do with this one.
Oh no, I love the Nolan ones. Like the Nolan ones, yeah.
I know you like the films, but I mean, like the Christian Bale Batman. It was exciting for you.
Yeah, I like those films a lot. I had no problem with those at all. I wasn't a huge fan of Dark Knight Rises. But yeah, the other two, especially Batman Begins, I thought was brilliant because again, it was just detective work. It wasn't really, there was a lot more him just being not quite as detective-y as this.
No.
But like it seems like this is a step forward.
Yeah, it's good. It's good shit.
Yeah. So yeah, let us know in the comments and all that stuff. Let us know what you think about it, and let's get stuck in.
Excellent stuff.
So until next time, I've been Tom.
And I've been Ant. Bye.
Bye. Because we have to finish it that way because it's going to be our main episode at some point.